Good Sunday morning, and thank you for watching Beyond the Headlines. I'm Ruben Villarreal. The Texas state capitol was busy these past few weeks, not in passing laws, but enforcing them, or at least determining if they were broken by one man. The impeachment trial of Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton began on September 5th. Since then, both the prosecution and defense have made their case to the Texas Senate, pushing the trial that much closer to a verdict. Closing arguments began this past Friday, where 30 Texas senators hold Ken Paxton's fate and future in politics. Paxton's wife, Senator Angela Paxton, was present during the trial but is not allowed to vote. The trial centered on accusations that Paxton abused his position in office to benefit Austin real estate developer Nate Paul, a friend and donor. On the table are 16 articles of impeachment to be voted on. As of this recording, both councils have just started to make their final pitch to the Texas State Senate. But to hear a firsthand account of the sights and sounds of what it was like to be present during the trial is today's topic of conversation. And for that conversation, we're going to welcome to our panel this morning, KGNS political contributor Sergio Mora.
Morning.
KGNS General Manager Luis Villarreal.
He's not. He's got too much hair for this panel.
That is true.
It's usually a panel of four for some reason.
No panel of four
today. A panel of two. But Beyond the Headlines must go on. The show must go on.
Oh yeah.
Sergio, you were here you were at this trial.
Well,
you had firsthand.
I've been in Austin, paying close attention to it. Obviously, it's interesting, and by the airing of this show on Sunday, there might be the possibility that a verdict has been reached, because it is expected that the trial is going to go into the weekend. Both sides have already made their case, and they are going to be begin deliberations on Friday. So there very well might be a verdict. It's 31 senators, and for Ken Paxton to be impeached, they need 2/3 of the senators, which is 21. So that means all the Democrats and a sizable number of Republicans for Ken Paxton to be impeached. It's been interesting. The whole thing started when Ken Paxton asked the legislature for over $3 million to settle a whistleblower lawsuit that a bunch of employees that he fired for going to the FBI to report him for abuse of power. He asked for this money. The Texas House of Representatives said, wait a second, like, why should we be giving you this money? The Texas House, under a Republican speaker, initiated the impeachment, which is mind-blowing because the Republicans are usually very united on everything. But this time it's showing deep divisions within the party. There was also an issue. Obviously, the crux of the issue is his relationship with Nate Paul. It is accused. He is accused of giving Ken Paxton's mistress a job at one of his companies in exchange for political favors. A lot of these political favors include the Attorney General hiring an outside counsel in order to investigate Nate Paul's business rivals is just one example. Another example are questionable renovations to the house of Ken Paxton that were supposedly paid by Nate Paul. So it's going to be interesting. We've had like a couple of weeks of testimony from both sides. Ex-employees delivering testimony, the whistleblowers delivering testimony, pretty damning testimony. But there's a lot of political ramifications at play. Obviously, it's politics. One of the main issues is that Ken Paxton is one of Donald Trump's favorites. They've been buddies forever. Donald Trump has been texting, posting social media posts saying that the people that are against Paxton are rhinos, Republicans in name only, and they're hinting that there will be hell to pay for the Republicans that do vote to impeach Paxton. And of course, you can imagine the Donald Trump machinery with the Republican primaries coming up, going into motion to attack the people that went against Ken Paxton. And I mean, in Republican primaries, that's a very scary thing. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. In my opinion, obviously, he should be impeached. Do I think he's going to be impeached? I think there's going to be a lot of external factors weighing in on a few of these Republican senators' decisions.
How many, you said all 21 Democrats
31.
31.
30
31 senators, 21 are needed to impeach.
Right. And
Yeah.
how many of those 21 can the Democrats bring in?
It's going to be interesting. I know I don't know the exact math, but it's going to be a handful of Republicans.
A handful,
that
5
need,
or 6.
Yeah, that need to vote with the Democrats and impeaching him.
Have you had a chance to go sit in on the trial at all, Sergio?
No, I've just
that's
been
fine.
watching it on the
Yeah.
live stream, but it has been opened. The gallery has been open for audiences.
You're there in Austin. I mean,
Yes.
and there's a political vibe that you sense throughout the city. And what's the vibe right now?
So last week they were only talking about beating Alabama. I don't think they were talking about.
Well, it's they called it when it began. They called it a political earthquake. It's only been third time since any statewide Texas official has been impeached. He's the only one in recent memory, and it's interesting because it shows deep fissures within the Republican Party. There's rumors that Ken Paxton will run against John Cornyn in 2026, and I think that shows sort of the split in the Republican Party in general. The pro-business, classic conservatives like John Cornyn, and the new populist, right-wing MAGA movement people like Ken Paxton and Ted Cruz. And they've been at each other, like the Freedom Caucus, not only in Austin but in D.C., in that the extreme right, the more populist faction of the party, is going after the more traditional conservative, pro-business, low taxes wing.
Very similar to what happened also on the other side with the left wing,
yes,
faction of the Democrats, and all that. There's the ones that are not happy with what Biden is doing, and they want to be more to the left, and I mean it's just happening on both sides. But back to the
it's happening nationwide.
Well, the ramifications for the presidential election are huge because you've got the Republicans who have a party that they've got a potential candidate who could be found guilty. He's being charged for several things and will be tried maybe before the election, who knows? So they're trying to figure out whose side do we fall on. Then you've got the Democrats trying to figure out whose side do we fall on, the side that says Biden should run again or another side. I mean, the ramifications and this, I mean, you see Biden and Trump there, but when time comes in November, will they be the two standing? I mean, that's...
It's going to be interesting, of course. I mean, I think that the ramifications of this one is the unity of the Republican Party. Sort of the Democrats were just told, hey, we're going to be having a hearing to impeach this guy. But I mean, ultimately, they did vote to impeach him. But the vote in the House of Representatives to actually impeach him was overwhelming. Overwhelming.
I mean, there was no party lines there. I mean, it was like almost unanimous.
That is correct. And the House is usually more moderate. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that the leader of the House of Representatives is elected by the body itself. The 150 representatives elect one of their own to be Speaker of the House. So the Speaker of the House can take advantage of the large Democratic faction and get some Republicans to be elected Speaker, something that the right wing really doesn't like. But in the Texas Senate, it's a lot different because the lieutenant governor, the officer who presides over the Senate, is elected by the populace at large. So if he's a right-wing conservative, it really doesn't. It doesn't trickle down it does trickle down into the body. He has a lot more sway over what happens in that chamber regarding the rest of the Republican senators.
Just by setting the calendar, it gives them all the
by setting the calendar, the committee assignments, the committee chairmanships, and all that. So it's going to be interesting to see. And what we saw in this past session, for example, was the Senate being a lot more conservative on issues like immigration and things of that nature, and Republicans in the House not really going along with some of the more extreme proposals that the Republican senators had, especially when you had talked about border enforcement and things of that nature. And also when it comes to vouchers in the House, there's a lot more opposition to the hard right demands for vouchers, because a lot of the Republican representatives representatives in the House represent tiny rural districts that argue that it would not be beneficial for their public schools, the few public schools that they have, to be defunded in favor of private schools. And so there will be most probably a special session having to do with vouchers immediately after this.
So, does he or doesn't he?
I don't.
Come on, what does your crystal ball say?
I don't think he will be impeached. There's also, will he be removed from office? Number one, right now he is out of office. There's a temporary replacement in there. Will he be removed from office? And there's also the question, will he be prohibited from running for office ever again in the state of Texas? So that's to be decided. I think that the Republican senators will bow to political pressure from the Trump wing of the party and vote to keep him.
We'll see. All right. When we come back, changes to some bus routes is causing an uproar with UISD parents. They say it puts student safety in jeopardy. But we have the UISD Transportation Director in studio to explain the district's position. That's next. Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. Thanks for watching. It's been an ongoing issue for weeks. Several parents continue to speak out regarding upcoming changes to some UISD bus routes. Last week, a group of parents took part in what they called a peaceful protest. Our Liseli Garza was at the protest and spoke with parents about this change at Elias Herrera Middle School.
Because a 2-mile radius from here to almost Walmart. Can you imagine an 11-year-old from here to Walmart or from here?
Dozens of parents gathered on Shiloh next to Elias Herrera Middle School, many holding signs saying their children's safety matters and asking United ISD to keep their bus services. Parents saying they are concerned the school bus service is being taken away for students living 2 miles or less from the school.
Today we're trying to, speak our opinions about, maybe funding bus transportation. We know that our kids need this, and in this Laredo weather, we know we are worried of them walking home.
Many parents like her walking 2 miles east on Shiloh, carrying backpacks and signs on Tuesday afternoon. TA policy says that if a student lives 2 miles or less from their school campus, in this case, Elias Herrera Middle School, they don't qualify for bus services since the district says the area isn't deemed hazardous anymore.
We apply it universally across the board, and we understand that you've had the bus service all this time, and we understand you were taking advantage of it, but there is a point where we need to basically draw the line and be in compliance like everything else, like all the other middle schools.
The district was supposed to take the services away September 29th, but decided to postpone it temporarily until the end of this year.
What we are planning on doing is changing that from 5 to 3 buses. We're going to reduce that to 3 buses, and it's going to be more like a shuttle, and it's going to be shuttling kids from the 2 elementaries that are in that zone, which is Malakoff and Borchers.
For parents like Veronica, she hopes the district reconsiders the decision before a tragedy occurs.
Because this is a necessity for our children.
For KGNS News, I'm Liseli Garza.
Thanks, Liseli. And he's joining us now here in studio. You just saw him in that package with Liseli. Joe Aranda is the Director of Transportation for UISD. Mr. Aranda, good morning.
Thank you.
A lot of uproar about this issue. What has been the district's stance, and how do you deal with these parents that are concerned?
The most important job that we have is to inform them of why we're doing it and what is actually the requirement. And I know it's difficult when all of a sudden, your buses are being removed and you need to make plans accordingly. And we understand that. And because of that, we've actually extended the bus service in that area. And we're also working on a shuttle that will work until, like I was mentioning in the video a while ago, that will run buses all the way till December the 19th. However, beyond December the 19th, we expect Elias Herrera Middle School to be in compliance just like all the other middle schools in the district. And it's a situation where, we're very happy to be here. We're happy to get it out to the public to let them know what we're doing and why we're doing it. And that's really what we're working on as we move forward.
Now, this is as per the state, correct? This within 2 miles, if they live within 2 miles, you're not required to provide transportation, is that correct?
Correct. The way it works, it's actually a TEA rule, and the TEA rule says that if you live 2 miles and further, then the district can apply for some reimbursement from the state. If you live 2 miles inside, close to the campus, obviously they become eligible walkers. The district per se cannot apply for funding for any level, at any level, to the state because of the rule that has been in place. And by the way, people ask, how long has the rule been in place? It's been in place for, I guess, since the inception of school bus service started. I know I've been with the district for 25 years. When I came here, that was already in place. And therefore, it is interesting that some of the, the parents are just, finding out about it, but it's been in place.
So every school does not send buses to pick up kids and drop off kids that live within a 2-mile radius of that particular school, period, across the board.
That's correct, sir.
Well, unless there are
yes.
circumstances where if it's unsafe,
Oh, okay.
if there are any sidewalks, or that's the way
Got
I
it.
understand.
That's exactly, or if you have a special needs child,
Right.
then you're going to get that service.
So why was Elias Herrera provided that service, and for how long till this kicked in?
Yeah, very good question. Elias Herrera opened up in about 2019, 2020, and it used to be United High School before.
Yeah.
And so when we were getting ready to start the busing for that area and to let parents know, we realized that the area that was north of Shiloh and then east of McPherson and of course all the way to the Loop had a lot of construction that was going on in the neighborhoods. In other words, there were all these neighborhoods that were not fully developed and they were not interconnected with sidewalks. So it made it impossible for kids to actually walk from one place to another. There was a lot of work and the development of the North Central Park. If you will remember, that whole area had a lot of drainage problems. So they built that huge concrete culvert to get the drainage out. And so there was a lot of construction going on. It made no sense for us to try to do that because, in fact, it was difficult for kids to move forward. 2020, 21, we think everything is in place. Central Park project is completed, and then COVID hits. And then we were there, debating, do we proceed to remove the buses and let the parents know? It was not a good thing to do because we wanted the opposite. We wanted kids to come to school. The buses were running around half empty. Everybody was going virtual. Everybody was not attending school. So it made no sense. We continued to provide the service. We also had the buses out there at the different locations throughout Elias Herrera in this boundary that we're talking about with the Wi-Fi, so that kids could continue to pick up the signal and be able to get educated. So it made no sense to remove the buses. We're past COVID and we're back. Everything is in place. There's the pedestrian safety infrastructure is already in place, and so we had it all planned and we talked about it over the summer for the implementation of the school year. A letter went out sometime late July to the parents, and all of a sudden, obviously, the parents were concerned because on August the 15th, we were going to start classes. So they said, well, wait a minute, you didn't even give us enough time. There was no leeway to be able to address this situation. So central office, the superintendent's office and everybody who calls the shots, right, basically sent out another letter indicating we're going to continue the service until it'll be September the 29th. We're going to continue that service, give parents an opportunity to plan accordingly. And then, of course, we've had several meetings with parents, and they've indicated, their concerns and the fact that they still don't believe that there's enough time to be able for them to be able to transport the kids. So what we did is we came up with a shuttle plan, which we've done before in other campuses. So from 5 buses, we're going to reduce it down to 3 buses. 2 buses will be parked at Malakoff, and parents will bring kids to Malakoff, and then from there we'll transport them to Elias Herrera. Another bus will be at Borchers Elementary, and parents will go there. There's already movement at those campuses because, as you all know, those are the elementary and Malakoff, or as the public knows, Malakoff and Borchers are within the 2-mile walking distance. There are no buses there. All the kids walk there, and these are the elementary kiddos. So we're still going to be able to provide for the middle schools the bus service, but it won't be going to the designated bus stop as it does now. We're going to reduce that service, and that'll continue until December the 18th or the 19th, which is the last day of the semester, to continue to provide help to the parents and give them an opportunity to plan accordingly.
Mr. Aranda, obviously two things at play here, and one of them is the economic impact and the financial, and you're talking about not being able to apply for funding. But on the other side, and the real concern is safety. And so, you know, is the district, I'm not going to ask you personally, but is the district confident that from a safety standpoint, the area is conducive for these kids to walk to school?
Yeah, the answer is yes, sir. We looked at it. The crosswalks are in place. There's crossways. There is an opportunity to get from one subdivision to another safely. In addition to that, the district is committed to working with law enforcement, like constable's office and the PD that can help us in areas where there may be, for example, people bring the intersection of Shiloh and International as being, you know, quite risky. And so we'll be getting help, you know, to be able to facilitate students to cross in that area.
All right. Mr. Aranda, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
All right, when we come back, it's the one thing our panelists cannot stop thinking about from the past week. Stay with us. All right, thanks for watching Beyond the Headlines. It's the one thing our panelists cannot stop thinking about from the past week. Sergio.
Well, guys, if people in Canada want to log on, want to see news from KGNS, for example, this is the image that they're going to get. And basically, anytime that Canadians want to see any sort of news on their Facebook feed, something that's completely normal and natural, and we click on news all the time on our Facebook, they're going to get this. And this is a result of the Canadian Parliament or legislature passing the Online News Act, which basically requires platforms like Facebook, like Google, like Instagram to reimburse news businesses for the content that they share on their platform. And so Facebook said, you know what, we're not going to pay these news companies, these newspapers, these TV stations for their content. So Canada, this is what you get. Trudeau, this is what you get. Wow. And it's a huge case because obviously the advent of social media, spreading news everywhere for free has caused a humongous dent in the revenue of newspapers, TV stations, everything across the world. It has revolutionized the whole industry, and not necessarily for the better. So Canada's experiment is huge. And right now what they're saying is that it's not denting Facebook coverage in Canada, but at the same time they recently had these huge wildfires, and the world was saying, Facebook, let Canadians see news on your platforms so that they can be informed and they can be safe. And Zuckerberg said, ni modo. This is what you wanted. You banned us.
You didn't ban him.
Well, you're forcing us to pay, and we're not gonna play ball.
Yeah, I mean, this is something I'm sure you would like to say a lot about.
Yeah, but I can't. We have a rule here that we do not interfere in one thing, so I will shut up.
So what's your one thing then?
My one thing was actually happened very early last Monday, I guess, 9/11, the anniversary, and I was watching the Monday Night Football game, and this was the scene, and it was a very special moment. That shot of the video with the Statue of Liberty, the singing of the national anthem by a police officer, I don't know.
Gave you the feels.
Yeah, you know, and then unfortunately Aaron Rodgers got hurt, but that's a different story.
That's a whole other story itself.
But it was just a beautiful ceremony, and it's been what, 22 years?
Some 2001.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Wow. It's been a long time.
Here's my one thing. Not to be outdone, Mexico had their first public congressional hearing on UFOs. Of course, we had one similar about 2 months ago. This is what I talked about 2 months ago with the nice little SOT sound on tape. This is a gentleman who has made these claims before. In 2017, he says he didn't call them extraterrestrials. He called them non-human beings. But the same man has been known to be a fraud in the past. So, but it's amazing how the image gains traction on social media without people knowing the whole story. And it's just fascinating that people just grab a story, grab an image, and aliens in Mexico. But I don't have time to tell you the whole story.
El
So you'll
sol
just have to look it
salió
up.
anoche y me cantó.
I don't know what that means.
Oh, come on.
No clue.
Oh, come on, guys.
Thank you, Sergio. All right, thanks, Serge. Luis, thank you. And thank you for watching. Have a blessed Sunday.
Oh, you're